Why, hello there, and welcome to the Bono Episodo Fantastico episode here of We Need to Talk About ... And here we're going to talk about our 10 favourite episodes from Batman the Animated Series.
Other people will have different favourites. These are just some of the ones that, as we were doing the main review of Batman Mask of the Phantasm, these are the ones that kind of like caught our eye. These are the ones that we would like to talk about. He is David Mabley, the Big Daddy D. I am Luke Murphy, and we are not the reviewers that you deserve. We are the reviewers that you need.
You're the ones that were the reviewers that you stuck with, basically.
We're the ones that turned up. Because the other ones were far too busy doing other stuff. First one that we wanted to point out is an episode called POV. From the first series, episode 7. So this is Batman the Animated Series does Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon. 3 of GCPD's finest, including Bullock and Rennie Montoya, try to explain what happened when a bus goes wrong. All 3 versions are different. In Bullock's, he's naturally the hero. Fortunately, Gordon gets the full story from Batman later on, who is actually, and in a really, really good part of the episode, when all of the 3 police officers leave and Bullock and Montoya leave and everybody, Batman comes out of the shadows. He's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
He's just you just hear Gordon say, "Did you get all of that?" And then here comes the Batman.
Yeah.
Who has been there all the time.
I like how Bullock is just such an arse. It's like, oh yeah, I had it all under control until Batman showed up. It's like, yeah, of course you did, mate.
I was closing in when this loud noise tipped him. Must have been Batman.
Next up then we have Two-Face, again from Season 1, and this is episodes 10 and 11. Yes, I'm cheating a little here as it's 2 episodes. This is an origin story, but we're actually introduced to Harvey Dent as a regular character at the start of the series. So this isn't actually the first time we see Harvey, and we've seen him being established as a close friend to Bruce, almost like a brother. So when the accident occurs that changes Harvey forever, it really is a tragedy. Bruce actually blames himself for not being able to save his friend.
This is kind of like the one that does actually start, oh, well, let's get to know Harvey Dent before we get to know Two-Face. And that's kind of touched upon in The Dark Knight. It's kind of not touched upon in Batman Forever.
In the first 2 Batman films, we have Harvey Dent introduced, but it's Billy D. Williams.
Yes, Landau Calrissian.
By the time we get to Batman Forever, Billy D. Williams has suddenly become Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes.
And to be honest, I didn't really like that version of Two-Face because all he just seemed to do was just flip a coin and cackle. You didn't really. Oh, and it basically just interact with Jim Carrey's Riddler. So,
yeah.
You know, Jim Carrey would go joygasm, and then Two-Face would go oh,
and that's basically those last 2 Batman films in a nutshell.
They were both trying to be the Joker. They weren't really being Two-Face or the Riddler.
They were trying to out-Joker the Joker and out Jack Nicholson, which, let's be clear about this, no one can out Jack Nicholson.
Well, funnily enough, that the climax of the Two-Face episode actually influenced the climax of Batman Forever, where Batman throws coins into the air so Two-Face can't figure out which one belongs to him. Now, it actually works better in the animated series because in the 2-parter, Two-Face is constantly flipping the coin and making a decision on what lands. In the film Batman Forever, he keeps flipping the coin, and if he doesn't like the result, he just goes and just starts flipping the coin again. In which case, it's like, well, why bother having the coin in the first place?
Yeah.
Is it Wayne Manor? It's like, shall I shoot him? Shall I shoot him? Shall I shoot him? Yeah.
Yeah. It's not Two-Face. It's 2 out of 3 Two-Face.
Yeah.
It's 2 out of 3 Face.
So when he does the thing at the climax of Batman Forever where he throws the coins, it's almost like, which one do I ignore?
Movie Heart of Ice. Again, from the first series. A good few of these are actually sort of from the original one before we actually hit the movie. But one of the great things about Batman the Animated Series was that he was able to rehabilitate certain characters, in particular villains from the Batman mythos. This award-winning episode, this won a Daytime Emmy, and it's a cartoon, and it won a Daytime Emmy, is basically the ultimate Mr. Freeze story. This episode shows that not all villains are evil. Some have just as tragic origins and motivations as the heroes that oppose them. I'd say this is probably the essential episode of the show. Mr. Freeze's origin here is used in every other form of Bat media that happens afterwards, including the comics, the TV shows, video games, movies. This is the ultimate Mr. Freeze story. This is moving away from the kind of version of Mr. Freeze that we had, sort of comics from the 1950s, 1960s. Mr. Freeze turned up a couple of times in the Batman TV series. Completely and utterly different here, and it is 100% brilliant. It really is.
It really is. I mean, prior to this episode, Mr. Freeze was just another Batman villain with a silly gimmick, and he'd actually been killed off in the comic books at the time. And after this episode, the character was resurrected in the comics and then was given the same tragic backstory incorporated into his character as what Paul Dini had created for him in the animated series. We also get a number of references to both Star Trek and Star Wars during this episode. Freeze mentions that revenge is a dish best served cold, which is a line most famously known from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. What's that other well-known line from Wrath of Khan? I forget it now. I'm sure it'll come to me in a moment. Also, Batman is hanging upside down by his ankles from a frozen ceiling and treats one of Freeze's henchmen in a hot chemical bath, both of which happen to Luke Skywalker in The Empire Strikes Back. And just to throw in that sort of Luke Skywalker reference in even more...
Nice thing there, mate.
Thank you.
Nice.
Mark Hamill's in this, but he's not voicing the Joker this time. He's actually doing the voice of Ferris Boyle, Victor Freeze's former boss, and the guy who ends up being responsible for Freeze's current condition.
I think this was actually the first voiceover job that he actually did for Batman the Animated Series.
Ah, so before he became the Joker.
So I think this was recorded before he became the Joker, which
right.
we did mention that Tim Curry was going to originally be the Joker in Batman the Animated Series. Did we mention that in the main review?
I don't know if we
Tim
did.
Curry
No.
was originally the Joker in Batman the Animated Series, but then
So-
scheduling conflicts happened and then Mark Hamill came in.
So the chap from the Rocky Horror Picture Show was
Yes.
originally going to be the Joker. That
Yes.
would have been a very different Joker to the one we
Yes.
ended up with.
Yes, he really
He would have been a
been.
fabulous Joker, probably in fishnets, you know. Oh, what's a horrible fart.
Oh, but the anticipation. Sorry, you just have to do that. It's fucking hell, you have to do
You've been
that.
dying to do that.
I have been dying to do that. I've been dying to do that.
What's also good though is that Batman has to battle Mr. Freeze whilst also suffering from a cold, but luckily he has Alfred's chicken soup to the rescue.
Alfred's chicken soup, available from all good supermarkets.
Next up, Beware the Grey Ghost, Season 1, Episode 18, guest starring the original TV Batman himself, the late, great Adam West. Bombings in Gotham are exactly like in an old TV episode that Bruce Wayne used to watch with his father. Now, unfortunately, he's unable to actually track down the episodes to watch them and see what's happened.
They've all been wiped. All the episodes from The Grey Ghost don't exist.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds familiar, does that? Where else has that happened before?
John?
Splink! Splink! Splink!
Batman teams up with the actor that played the Grey Ghost to stop the bombings, and essentially we've got two Batmen teaming up here, as the actor who plays the Grey Ghost is none other than Adam West. It's very respectfully done throughout, and it's also very touching to see that even Batman had a hero whilst growing up, and still does to a certain extent. I mean, look at the weird shrine that Batman has to the Grey Ghost in the Batcave. It's like, this seems a little out of character. Batman's got a weird shrine to him.
Yeah, but then again, in the Batcave, he does have a massive, great big penny and a dinosaur.
Ah, now the origin of the penny turns up in another episode. We'll come to that in a moment.
Come to that in a minute.
Trying to pick a favourite episode of the Batman animated series can be a little bit difficult, but for me, out of all the ones I've seen, personal favourite has always been Enter the Grey Ghost. Enter the Grey Ghost was an episode which featured Batman teaming up with an actor from an old TV series which Bruce Wayne had been a fan of as a child, The Grey Ghost. What was brilliant about this episode was not only because we got a brief look into Bruce's past life as a child, but also as well, what was nice was the fact that they got none other than the late Adam West to play the role of the said character, the Grey Ghost. West, of course, was the Batman from the original old TV series alongside Burt Ward. So him and Kevin Conroy together was absolutely fantastic. But this is also a personal favourite of mine because of the fact West's old TV series was the reason I got into comic books in the first place as a child. It's probably the reason why I'm a geek now with my love of pop culture. So it's always held a very special place in my heart because of West largely, and just because it's a fantastic episode from start to finish.
It's nice to see that Bruce Wayne did have some happy childhood memories at least. And again, it's very respectful as well towards Adam West, who sadly is no longer with us. But sort of seeing the two of them sort of stood together, both the Grey Ghost and the Batman, and you can see what influences Batman got from the Grey Ghost.
Yeah.
It's very much like a hand of the torch. It's like Adam West to Kevin Conroy. It's very respectfully done throughout.
Yeah.
And
It's a really good episode.
Really enjoying it.
Really good episode. Next up we have from season 2, Perchance to Dream. So this makes for a great what if episode, and this is what if Bruce Wayne never became Batman. His parents are still alive, he's the billionaire head of Wayne Industries, he's engaged to Selina Kyle, who isn't Catwoman in this reality, except things are a little strange in this happy reality, and Bruce still remembers his real life as Batman, with a great twist at the end. Superb homage to Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. Bruce discovers the truth behind his new life. And again, I'm a sucker for what if episodes. What if, something slightly different happened? And I think this is done very, very well. Recently in the comics, they've just done a similar type of thing as well. But it's always nice when, when things are going right, but you know that they're actually wrong.
The reason why Bruce can't read or write in this reality actually is scientifically accurate. And that's when he starts to realise, hang on a minute, something's not quite right here.
There you go.
Only more dramatic, it's like, all the books!
There we go, kids.
What are you doing, Bruce? It's a lie! It's all a lie! Zardos!
Oh, he's off again.
This isn't an ordinary dream. What if you're wrong?
Then I'll see you in your nightmares.
Mr. Wayne, no!
Next up, Almost Got Him. Season 2, Episode 18. 5 of the classic villains are in one room together. We've got the Joker, Two-Face, Poison Ivy, the Penguin, and Killer Croc. They all start playing poker and begin to share stories about how close they all came to killing Batman. The stories are creative, there's a great twist at the end, and the interaction between the villains is great, with all of them poking fun at each other and showing some spot-on characterisation that makes them seem much more third-dimensional and illustrates just why Batman has the greatest rogues gallery in comic books.
All of them have distinct personalities. The Penguin will act in a certain way, the Joker will act in whatever way he feels like it. Two-Face acts in a certain way.
Well, what I like about that is that all the characteristics for Two-Face are still in there. When he's like stirring his coffee, he uses double cream. When he gets his guns out, he's actually got two twin caliber guns. So all the elements of two is all sort of still there with Two-Face. And funnily enough, it's actually Two-Face's story of how he almost got him, which explains why Batman has a giant penny in the Batcave. Yes.
And I think this episode, like most of the episodes, some take sort of inspiration from some of the comic stories. I think this is actually the close adaptation of actually one of the stories from the comics from the 70s or something like that. But again, really good episode, really fun episode as well. It's always really nice to watch it.
And a nice showing of Catwoman at the end as well, who also has a road story of almost got him.
Almost got him.
Harley and Ivy. I'm going to really like talking about this one because I really like this episode. So, fed up with being underappreciated and out abused by the Joker, Harley leaves. teams up with Poison Ivy. They promptly go on a crime spree. They are crowned Gotham's Queens of Crime, much to Mr. J's annoyance. And it's basically Thelma and Louise, but with Batman villains. And it's one of the first times where Harley shows that she's a really, really good character in her own right. She isn't just the Joker's psychic girlfriend, punch bag, whatever.
Whatever she is.
Whatever she is. She is. This is the first time where we actually say, well, you know something, this Harley Quinn character is actually really, really good.
And to be honest, the sort of relationship between Harley and Ivy, they remain on good terms then throughout the rest of the sort of Bat media, you know.
Yeah.
They've sort of pick up that bond here in this episode, and that's something that's continues to be established in the comics.
Yeah, absolutely so.
And they make a lovely couple as well.
Oh, they do.
Do you hear me? No women!
I think we can still work it out, don't you?
Next up, and this is funny enough the only episode that we've picked from season 3, it's episode 10, Showdown. A bit of a different one this, as Batman's not actually in it. Instead, we've got Ra's al Ghul narrating a story involving his attempts to stop the building of the transcontinental railway line across the USA in the 1880s. Now, Batman's not around to stop him, but somebody else is. A certain scarred-up cowboy by the name of Jonah Hex.
And this is something really, really different. Because, you know, Ra's al Ghul is a great character in the comics. In Batman the Animated Series, he's a great character in the Animated Series, voiced by David Warner. And this starts, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, there's no Batman around here, this is going to be a time travel episode or something like that. And then next thing you know, you see Jonah Hex coming in, and you're thinking, oh, right, this is a bit different. And
if your only exposure of Jonah Hex has been with the bloody live-action movie with bloody what's her name?
oh, Josh Brolin was in that.
Josh
Brolin was playing Jonah Hex.
Josh Brolin was playing Jonah Hex, and then who's the love interest? It's her off the Transformers movie.
It's Megan Fox.
It's Megan Fox. Yeah. If that's your only exposure to the Jonah Hex character, then
Oh dear.
this is an episode you need to check out because this really establishes, in the space of 20 minutes, who Jonah Hex is.
And just what a good character he is as well. And Jonah Hex is a character that's popped up very, very recently in DC's Legends of Tomorrow's TV series. So he's been in that for 2 or 3 episodes, and they've done it brilliantly.
Makes sense as well because you're the time traveling.
thing.
It's a Batman episode without Batman, but because the writing is so strong, it still works.
Yeah, absolutely. Next, we have a story from Series 4 called Over the Edge.
Now, season 4's a bit odd, if I can just interject here. The animation style changed, the art style changed. I mean, everyone had the sort of kind of an angular shape anyway, but in the season 4, they seem to make it look even more angular. Batman's jaw looks even more square now, you know.
Yeah.
Female characters' breasts now seem pointier than usual.
I think the big dead giveaway that things have sort of definitely moved on and definitely changed is to the Bat costume itself, because gone is the oval.
But the big yellow oval, yes, it's
you know, the big target on his chest, and now we've just got sort of the plain sort of black bat logo on there. It is different. I mean, some of the characters do genuinely look very, very different. Catwoman looks massively different.
Completely different. I'm not sure if I'm happy with the redesign of Catwoman because they've basically made her skin sort of incredibly pale, almost to the point where her skin looks blue.
Yeah.
I feel that you take a look from how she was in seasons 1 to 3, and then how she's in season 4, and it's like, no, she looked better. Better before.
Some of the redesigns work, some of the redesigns don't work.
There is one redesign which we don't like, and we'll come on to that in a moment. However, there are a couple of designs which I feel do work. The Scarecrow looks absolutely fantastic in season 4. He doesn't look like a Scarecrow anymore, but he looks a hell of a lot more scary than what he did in seasons 1 to 3.
Yeah.
He really does look like the stuff of nightmares. The Mad Hatter looks incredibly creepy now, whilst before he just looked merely goofy. And Killer Croc actually looks like a monster this time, whilst before he just looked a bit odd, to be honest with you. He didn't really look threatening at all. So some of the redesigns work and some of them do not. Also, it seems to be permanently dark in Gotham all the time with the red sky.
Yeah.
Which I suppose is like a throwback to the intro sequence, but it just seems weird that there's a red sky all the time.
I think the other good thing about sort of Series 4 is that they do sort of things start to grow up a little bit, and not so much grow up a little bit, but you can tell that there's a number of years have passed. So from Series 1 to 3, obviously Dick Grayson was Robin. He's grown up. He's become Nightwing,
And now he's got an even younger Robin to hang about.
Yeah, he's got Tim Drake.
Yes. Where does Batman keep finding all these young boys to hang about with?
Moving on, very quickly talking.
They also had a slight redesign on Batgirl as well.
Yes.
Because when she turns up in some of the early seasons, she's basically looking in an outfit that basically looks like a teenage girl cosplaying as Batman, which is a bit creepy. But in season 4, she has her own costume there, which is based off the films. I'm not too sure how stealth she can possibly be. You know, I mean, Batman's lost the yellow oval, but she's ended up gaining bright yellow gloves and bright yellow boots, which doesn't seem particularly stealthy to me. But hey ho.
Considering that you don't blend in with the night.
Yeah.
So Over the Edge. This one is where Gordon finds out that Barbara is Batgirl after she supposedly dies in a confrontation with the Scarecrow, meaning that he goes full on hunting Batman, and he even goes as far to make a deal with Bane to bring the Batman down. Dark, brooding. Shows you what we always suspected, that actually Gordon is massively dangerous. And again, this is another what if story. You know, people think, this is one of the things about Commissioner Gordon, basically saying, oh yeah, he just gets, Batman to do his dirty work. Really?
Not
Does
really.
he?
He is.
Not really.
He's a very strong character on his own. In this episode, I think certainly highlights how important he is to Gotham and how important he is to Batman's war on crime. Well, this then leads us on to our next episode, Legends of the Dark Knight, Season 4, Episode 19. A group of kids tell stories about Batman, but each of their stories invokes a different period in the Batman comics. We get a Bob Kane version, we have a 1950s Dick Sprang version, and finally we get a Frank Miller version as seen in The Dark Knight Returns, with Michael Ironside, fuck yes, voicing Batman.
Michael Ironside, the man that made Sequest DSV watchable.
The man with one of the graveliest voices in Hollywood.
Oh, Michael Ironside. But this is a really good thing, a really good episode to basically take distinct looks and versions of Batman over the years and to do something in homage to those ones. So we have the Bob Kane version, we have the Dick Sprang 1950 version, we have the Dark Knight Returns. So this is before they actually did an adaptation of the Dark Knight Returns into animated films.
And it's before they did
Brave and the Bold.
Brave and the Bold, which was very much the Dick Sprang version as well.
Yeah, and again, I think in that episode, in that series, in the Brave and the Bold episode, they did something very similar by taking 3 distinct versions of sort of animated.
This would be the one with Batmite, where he explores Batmanga.
Batmanga.
That time where Batman and Robin teamed up with Scooby-Doo and the gang.
No, and there was another one as well. And again, it just shows that you can, and there has been, generally many different versions of the character. Batmanga's awesome. Seriously, I've read the Batmanga. It's mad, but it's very enjoyable.
Lord Deathmask?
Lord Deathmask! Or something along those lines.
There's also another kid in this episode who gets all excited about Batman, and he talks about Batman having tight rubber armour and a car that can drive up walls, to which case the kids say, "Shut up, Joel." Which I think is a bit harsh, considering, the director.
No, it's not harsh at all. It is completely and utterly fitting that Joel Schumacher gets an absolute smackdown.
That's for the bat nipples.
Yeah.
And then finally, I think we want to talk about this one together.
Yeah, Mad Love.
Season 4, episode 21.
Mad Love. Now, this was the episode that sets up the origin of Harley Quinn, a character that was created solely for the TV series, as we've said. She became so popular that she became part of the comic book canon. This is the tragic origin of Harley Quinzel, a brilliant psychologist whose life has changed forever when she meets and falls in love with a certain Mr. J. We also see how much violent the relationship is between Joker and Harley and how she became insane in the first place. Joker has actually used her as a means to an end. In a way, she is another victim of the Joker's madness and has got zero interest in getting to rev up the old Harley.
Rum, rum!
Parts of this episode were also adapted within the Batman Arkham games, within Suicide Squad. It's a really, really good episode. So much so...
It's that good, I think we're actually willing to overlook the terrible redesign they did to the Joker for Season 4. What the fuck did they do to him?
Here's a picture of the Joker in Series 1. Now here's a picture of the Joker in Series 4. Now!
Why would you take one of Batman's most colourful characters, one of Batman's most colourful enemies, the guy who's the mirror opposite of Batman, and drain all the colour out of him? Why would you do that? You know, his hair isn't green anymore, it's black. His eyes aren't yellow anymore, they're black. His suit isn't purple anymore, it's kind of purpley black. They've ruined him. Why did they do that?
I think if you have a look at his face as well, they've even taken some of the red lips away.
Yes, the red lips have gone as well.
Red lips gone as well.
He looks like he shouldn't belong in a Batman film. He looks like he's about to pop up in Steamboat Willie and try to kill Mickey Mouse. It's not. But again, Mad Love is such a good episode. Yeah. I'm actually willing to overlook the terrible redesign of the Joker that they did for Season 4. That's how good an episode it is.
And it's very, very good. They even did a comic book adaptation of it as well. Paul Dini, I think, wrote Mad Love. He also did the comic book adaptation, added more stuff to it. So it is a very, 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 very good story. It is one of these. It's Harley's origin has not changed. This is Harley's origin. Even when Harley came into the comics proper within No Man's Land, that was Harley's origin.
That was the origin
they've always went that way. It's a really, really good episode. It's a good half an hour's watch.
Hello. Hi, David. Hi, Luke. Sorry to interrupt. We need to talk about ... But I need to talk about my favourite episode of Batman the Animated Series. For my interruption, I've chosen Season 4, Episode 21, Mad Love. There's a lot going on in this episode, and I could talk about the animation, I could talk about the origin of the story, I could talk about the themes contained within it. But for the sake of brevity, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why you need to go and watch this episode right now. The first is the cast and characters. So not only have you got the best Batman in Kevin Conroy and the best Joker in Mark Hamill, you've also, the episode centres around Harley Quinn, created just for the animated series. This is her origin story. This is where she comes from, and she is first and foremost the character we are concentrating on throughout here, beautifully voiced by Arlene Sorkin. The second reason, leading straight on from that, is the story itself. Batman the Animated Series is ostensibly a show for children, but it is incredibly dark and incredibly violent in places, and I don't think any more so than in this particular episode. So we're looking at how Harley went from Harley and Quinzel, up-and-coming criminal psychiatrist, to Harley Quinn, the erstwhile sidekick and punchbag of the psychopath that is the Joker. It details how Harley's obsession with her Mr. J began, the full extent of his brutality towards her. He is evil, and the lengths that she will go to win his love. And it's an absolute tragedy. And that is summed up in my final reason for watching this movie, which is the final line. There are a lot of quotable lines in this episode. One of the most amusing for me is the Joker tossing a hand grenade towards Commissioner Gordon, who's sitting in a dentist chair, and just throwing off the line, "May the floss be with you." Not funny in itself until you remember who is actually saying that line. But the best line is the last one. It's delivered by Harleen, who is bruised and battered in body, but seems to be healing in mind, and she's musing on how she now feels about the Joker and how she's beginning to recognise him as murderous, manipulative and irredeemable, until she turns her head and she sees a rose with a note from him telling her to get well soon. And Arlene Sorkin delivers the final word of that line beautifully, where she changes from Harleen right back into Harley and calls him Angel. And at that point, that moment is absolutely heartbreaking, because you know she's never going to escape that destructive relationship now. And it shows the true tragedy of Harley Quinn as a character. So go watch the episode. I've said right now, but I think David and Luke would probably like to stay around to the end of this video. But as soon as this is finished, go watch Mad Love. Thank you. Goodbye.
Again, obviously the character's evolved sort of more in the comics recently as well. She's definitely got a very, very interesting sort of niche and sort of...
well, she's become like their version of Deadpool, hasn't she? She's become like the fourth wall breaker as well.
Yeah.
There's also been some really weird bits now where she's kind of like got a bit of a relationship going on with Power Girl that may or may not be more than what it seems. And there's even been an odd one where Harley Quinn has snogged another version of Harley Quinn from another reality.
Yes. Interestingly enough, the kind of the team up with Power Girl is just really good. Basically, really quickly, Power Girl gets a bump on the head. She forgets who she is. So Harley decides, oh, do you know something? I'm going to try and make out that I'm your sidekick. And then we'll go off and she gets her own sort of Harley Quinn superhero costume with a cape and everything, and they go off on a massive, great big galactic adventure. Where they end up on a planet meeting Vartox. Okay, hang on. Bear with me with this one. Who then decides that he's from a... Okay, so Vartox's look is modelled on Sean Connery from Zardoz.
Holy shit.
It's really,
and that ties us back into the first episode.
Everything is connected.
Everything is connected
Everything
to Zardoz.
is connected to Zardoz. You didn't know this, we're just telling you this now. There was a reason why we used that as our first episode. Everything is connected to Zardoz. We are living in Zardoz.
Zardoz.
Zardoz. Zardoz. Anywho, back to Batman the Animated Series. That is a very, very brief 10 episodes of Batman the Animated Series that we really enjoyed.
Well, that was fun. Who's for Chinese?
Even though we have just mentioned 10 here, there's loads more, to be honest with you.
That's your starter for 10.
That's your starter for 10. Well done, Bamba.
And then, by all means, watch some more as well.
Yes, please do.
Well worth it. It is one of the best animated cartoons of the 90s. It's one of the best adaptations of a superhero possibly ever.
Yes.
And they're definitely all well worth a watch. So that was 10 very strong episodes that we've recommended there, and certainly go out your way to check out the rest as well. So I think we've brought it to a...
I think we've definitely done it. What with the main review for Massacre of the Phantasm and this, I think we have...
And I think we've certainly established our Bat fan credentials here.
Absolutely.
Over the last 2 episodes.
Well, Bat and Green Arrow. I got the memo this time.
Yes, funnily enough. I am the Big Daddy D.
I am Lou Murphy.
And we're signing off for another episode of We Need to Talk About... ...